Hello and welcome to the big picture. Social media revolution is still at its infancy in India. According to latest figures, there are 121 million internet users in India, and which is just about 10% of the total population of the country. Out of this, about 50 to 60% are estimated to be visiting social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google+, among others. However, how effective is the social media as a political communication tool? Admittedly, Indian politicians and political parties have only recently woken up to the possibilities of using social media as a tool of communication. Major political parties including the Congress, BJP, Samajwadi Party, CPIM, Trinamool Congress, Telugu Desam, BSP have all started making their presence felt on the Facebook and Twitter. BJP, however, is far ahead of all other parties in utilizing these modern communication tools to reach out to the people in the cyberspace through social media sites. With prospects of rapid growth of the internet users and consequently the social media too, it is now becoming imperative for the political parties to devise social media strategies to reach out to the people in the cyberspace. How effective will social media prove to be in the coming days and months and years as a political communication tool? How prepared are the political parties to make use of it? We will discuss all this today with an interesting panel of guests. I have with me today Nilotpal Basu, Central Committee member of the CPIM and someone who is also very active on the social media. Meenakashi Lekhi, National Vice President of BJP's Mahila Morcha. Dilip Cherian, founder of Perfect Relations and an image consultant, and also someone who is very active on the social media. And Sheila Bhatt, editorial director news at rediff.com, the first professional news website in this country. Welcome to all of you. By the way, we are also joined by the Union Law Minister Salman Khurshid on the phone line with us. Salman Khurshid, as you all know, is not only the Union Law Minister but also a very key strategist of the Congress party. Welcome to all of you. Let me go to Salman first. Salman, as a social media as a political communication tool, this is something which the Congress party has realized very lately. Do you think you people have been able to develop some strategies how to use this social media?
Well, I think it's very early days on, and we are just beginning to find our feet with the social media. Social media is an incremental thing. You know, it can't be. It's not something you can do overnight. You have to seek space, occupy space, and then find the right communication skills. And we have been working on this quietly for a while, and I think we've made some gentle forays into the social media.
Right.
Some of us have done it individually, some of us have tried to do it collectively. But I think in the months ahead, we would certainly be much better equipped to at least keep our space intact, even as a lot of new forces try to barge in. We will keep our flag flying. So
you agree that social media has become a key political communication tool as of now?
Well, it is. It's something that's growing and it's inevitable. But I wouldn't swear by it today. I don't think vast stretches of India, rural India, still have any kind of impact that one would see with social media in the cities.
Right.
But it's an expanding thing, and I think that you can't wait for tomorrow. I think you've got to tackle it now, and also to use it in a beneficial and a wholesome manner rather than to be dictated to by the social media as we see it today. I think you have to make it move towards a more wholesome and a positive content.
Okay. Please stay on, Salman. I'll come back to you. I have Nilotpal Basu here in the studio with me. Nilotpal, CPIM has been also, like Congress, only recently seems to have understood or, accepted the fact that social media is something which people need to be on, right?
I think there are people around this table who will bear me out to really explain that we were not really late in coming out of the blocks. And I can claim, I mean, you talked about BJP and all that, our party website is one of the best that the political parties are having. Now, having said that, I am saying that yes, it is emerging as an important media because primarily social media is a response to what is happening globally, and as a result of that, what is also happening in India. That is, in the mainstream media, the voice of the disempowered, voice of the marginalized is really finding no space. I mean, the corporates, they have an agenda, and that is how they have monopolized. Therefore, I mean, search for an alternative medium of communication, I think, is actually forcing many people to express themselves. And I think the government, apart from being late, I mean, they have started on a very wrong note. And actually pose the question as a governmental control over forces who are out to destroy the country. I mean, they really don't believe in the essential democratic temperament of our people, of which the cyber community is a part. So I think that approach has to change, but there are limitations in social media. I mean, again, you see, it's related to the overall iniquitous situation for those who are unempowered or disempowered, because the kind of database that is available, the figures that you quote also show that it is not just social media. You see, overall access to a computer, to online devices, that is also so limited, I mean, as of now. Therefore, political parties, I think, have to take that into account and evolve also as and how we go along.
Okay, let me get Meenakshi Lekhi in. Meenakshi, though Nilotpal Basu feels that his political party's site on the Facebook or on the net is one of the best, but what I have noticed when I was going through all the, at least on the Facebook, that is that the BJP is the most advanced. In fact, you are even webcasting today's proceedings of the Surajkund National Meet. Is there a very well thought out strategy as far as the social media is concerned in the BJP? Meenakshi, can you hear me? Okay, I think we have, there's a problem with the line, we'll come back to her. Dilip, what I want to ask you is, you know, Salman made a point. Salman said, and which all of us are aware of, in a country with a population of about 65 to 70% literacy rate, and you know, so many people living in rural areas, we've still not been able to, the internet has not been able to penetrate still there, we're just 10% of the total population. But as a political tool, you think this is something which will grow in the coming days?
You know, Salman said these are incremental forms of media.
Right.
And I think Nilotpal made the very important point that the approach that you take needs to be right, needs to be thought out, and needs to be appropriate for the medium. There are two facts to take into account. One is that today the number of mobile phones exceeds the number of lavatories in India.
Absolutely.
One. Two, the number of mobile phones in the world exceeds the number of toothbrushes in the world. So, what are we talking about? Anybody who cannot see that this is converging as a media, and soon your phone is going to be your access to the web, whether on a continuous basis, which is expensive, and maybe India, everybody will not have it. But today or tomorrow, a large number of our younger population is going to access their news and, more importantly, make up their views based on what they're seeing here. The second thing is that, unfortunately, this is also a time when the point that Mr. Pal made, that media, big media, is owned by big interests.
Right.
And, you know, and that's going to be the direction of the future. This is the only form of media where in a disintermediate form, you're able to access your leader or access your party and give them your views.
Right.
So I think these are two important things to take into account. Therefore, parties don't have a choice. And today, when we talk to political parties about their image, the first thing we tell them is, let's examine how many likes you have, let's examine what your Twitter feed is like. And that's very important.
You know, you're talking of likes. It's very interesting that I was going through some of the sites of the various political parties. I see that, the BJP's likes, when I said that, I went through your all the Facebook accounts of the various political parties, and BJP is way ahead. It has more than 500,000 likes. I think we have Meenakshi Lekhi back on the line with us. Meenakshi, can you hear me? Meenakshi? I think we still have a problem. Sheila, Dilip gave us some glimpse of how the communication between image consultants and the political parties. You as a journalist, you were one of the first journalists, in fact, who was on the net, who was writing on the net. You have stuck to it, and the rediff.com is one of the most seen websites, news websites in the country. How do political parties react to this whole phenomenon?
Girish, let me tell you first that we must now consciously enter on this subject in the next phase of this debate. Right. Social media is already established in India. It was shown on the two major occasions when Shashi Tharoor had to resign, and secondly, when Lalit Modi had to go, just because they did some Twitter which were so politically loaded, and the whole India and the political class reacted.
That's an interesting
So,
point,
first of all, let us go into second part of this debate. Social media is already established. Where are we? Mr. Salman Khurshid may not remember that he came on a Rediff platform, and in one single day, though he is not online presence in that sense, Mr. Khurshid is a TV presence, but he got some 350 or 400 questions if he remembers. So, and when President Kalam came to online social media, he got 3,000 people at one go, and he got 8,000 questions. And secondly, most important thing I would like to add in this debate is that I totally agree with Mr. Basu of his concern, and Mr. Khurshid, Mr. Basu, and also BJP, all of them should sit together and ensure that India does not have a digital inequality, which is a very, very, if it happens, it will be very sad thing. Since as even our Dilip is also agreeing that on most of the media is very important, media is a kind of a hidden power, and that power everybody wants to grab, that is very obvious. And particularly this medium, this particular social media is having inherent character to add fuel into fire. It can pick up wrong things quickly than the right things, and that's why all the politicians.
The fact that the Shashi Tharoor, you mentioned Shashi Tharoor especially, and Lalit Modi, both of them were victims of their own.
I just want to say one small thing, that I think more and more people, when they are from poor to middle, when they graduate to middle class, they also become conscious of freedom and I, me, myself.
Absolutely.
And in that, this media is very important.
Absolutely.
So only one, I feel that a lot of things will happen once this media is still more English. When it becomes Hindi, Tamil, and oh God, my driver today is downloading, he pays 98, my Jagdish, and he pays 98 rupees to listen to music. He can also, he can pay 98 rupees and also listen to information.
Absolutely.
Then knowledge.
Yes, I think we have Meenakshi back on the line. Meenakshi, can you hear me? Meenakshi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. See,
yes, I can.
Yes. See, when I was going through some of the Facebook sites of various political parties, it's quite evident that BJP is far ahead of every other political party when it comes to its presence on the net, and especially on the social media sites. Is there a very conscious strategy being adopted by the BJP to, on the social media sites?
No, I wouldn't say there is a strategy, but the strategy was that we were not getting covered by the other mainstream media, and our message is not going. So it's like if somebody is caught between the fire and the pan, has to make options available, and this is one option which we have exercised, because there is a lot of control on the mainstream media, and a particular point of view is not going across. So we have to depend on social media.
Okay. And you've been quite successful, I should say, that in penetrating the social media. Let me get Mr. Salman Khurshid back.
I will take your best wishes. I will take your best wishes and accept it as a compliment.
Okay, Salman?
Yeah.
Salman, see, it's very interesting. It's very interesting that both the other two guests on my program, the politicians, Meenakshi Lekhi and Nilotpal Basu, both of them feel that the mainstream media doesn't reflect their points of view, and social media, that's why social media is very important for them. But I've heard even the Congress party complaining about this. But now do you think that with you people now taking social media seriously, you will develop some kind of a strategy which will broad base and ensure that since you're in the government, you're the law minister, that everybody gets an equal opportunity on these platforms?
Well, let me just say two things. A lot of things politicians and political parties say on your programs, which are honestly just posturing, to say that media doesn't reflect our views. It's true and it's not true. I mean, media does reflect from time to time, and sometimes they don't, because we are not saying things that the media enjoys or likes. So, I mean, it's part of the system. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So I don't think this is something to belabor, frankly. I think it's a waste of time to belabor this. But as far as the social media is concerned, social media has two dimensions. One is you can claim as much space as you want to.
Right.
And the other one is that you have to try and convert people who are extremely aggressive because they are sort of working in anonymity. There is no eye contact, there's no facial contact, so they can say things that you normally don't say in civilized society. And conversions and converting people to your cause is not easy, because a lot of people who are active on the social media, and I agree, when I did readers on the net, there were many people sending questions, etc. But they were a very, very microscopic segment of our society.
Yes.
So I don't take that today as indicative of the influence it will have in terms of our democracy today. But as I said, this is an incremental thing. It will grow, and it will be silly of anyone to say, well, you don't need to worry about it. This is not will we do that kind of situation at all. Having said that, it's the effort that you can put in and the brains that you can use to convert people and to seek space on the social media. You don't have to spend a lot of money to get space. This is the first time that you have a chance to get space on a media platform without having to pay for it. So that you don't have to advertise. You can actually put in hard work and populate the social media with your thoughts. You will get responses, good and bad, etc., but that's another matter.
No, there are some of the political parties and politicians have been complaining about the kind of abuse which happens on this social media. Is that something which causes a lot of concern for you people?
Well, of course it does, but there is abuse elsewhere. There is abuse between political parties. We've not been able to stop abuse between political parties. At election time, sometimes, yes, the election regime prevents us from doing things and saying things, at least explicitly. But in general moments, where do we stop each other from getting abusive? So yes, the abuses get to an extreme in the social media. You have to live with it. You have to live with it, and you have to have faith and the belief that majority of people of our society don't appreciate abusers, and that the guy who's sending out the abusers, frankly, is in a minority. And this is a minority that you don't need to protect. You may not go after that minority, but you don't have to protect this minority because it's capable of protecting itself.
Okay, that's interesting. Nilotpal, since you people started taking this social media seriously, you have been yourself on the Facebook and all for the last maybe less than a year or so. How has it benefited you as a person, as a political activist, and your party? How has it benefited?
I think before responding to this question, I will just quickly raise a point about the observation that you are making about BJP and huge. You see, it has got also something to do with socio-economic reality. First of all, BJP is a much bigger party than the CPI.
I'm not
one.
I'm only stating the fact
Apart from
about
that,
inquiry.
I think the socio-economic composition of the BJP support base make it eminently more possible for their people to use the cyber world in a manner which our people cannot.
Okay,
One,
right. Coming to the
now,
question.
a basic question, you see, social media, one advantage is it combines both the audio-visual and the print media.
Right.
I think that has to be understood, and I am little old-fashioned, so I think still, in terms of influencing political opinion, still print media has a sway over the visual media, simply because for reading you need a certain kind of cerebral exercise which makes your messages eminently much more meaningful and much more effective in the long run. Therefore, I mean, I have found that, you see, particularly if you are on an online chat. Now, one of your activists who is working in a remote corner of the country, now he gets to ask me questions, and I also get to know the feel on the grassroots. That is, I mean, for my advantage. And secondly, when I communicate to him, I have to communicate in a language which is intelligible to him. I cannot use the language of the parliament.
No, I just
cannot.
Nilotpal, just one small question. See, your base, your party's base is, there's a lot of illiterate community or semi-literates or partial literates who are not able to. The one of the things which, to be on the internet, you have to be literate, and you have to be more than literate, not just basic literacy.
You see, therefore,
so
first of all,
hasn't that been a some kind of
yes. In my first remarks, I mentioned that it has certain inherent limitations. You cannot really divorce social media, particularly on the question of access and the overall inequality and digital literacy aspects. But you see, therefore, we have to be more creative. Say, for example, I have been associated with some movement where you can create a facility for going online as a community space. I mean, not just for private usage. Absolutely. I mean, and the economics will work. I mean, maybe it cannot overcome all the problems, but to that extent, comparatively, rather than an individual use.
So is there now you as a political party, have you started devising strategies, very conscious strategies, how to use the social media?
Of course. And if you see, I just bring in the Latin American social and mass movements. They have used this kind of thing, particularly in Brazil, in Venezuela, in some of the other Latin American countries. And if you see this whole Egyptian movement for democracy, they have used, and the Occupy Wall Street movement, they have used very effectively these kind of...
Okay, Dilip, Salman made several points. One of the points which I want you to elaborate on. He says, for the first time, political parties have got this space, this unlimited space, and they don't have to spend money on it. I mean, what is the kind of revenues, the economics involved in social media?
You know, I am very frightened when I hear people talk about free space.
Yes.
What they have to understand is that this space is about to be monetized. The fact is that today, both Facebook and Twitter are working very hard on ensuring that they also drive revenues from this space.
There's a Gartner study which says that the social media revenue in 2011 stood at $11.8 billion.
And that is individual revenues coming at the moment in the political space, largely from individuals. But as the Obama campaign and as various other campaigns across the world have shown what has happened with the British elections, political parties will have to actually buy space even there. So I think to expect that it's space for free is a bit of a pipe dream, one. Two, I think that to say that it is marginal or not for the marginalized, which is the point that Nirutpal is making, is relevant, and we can all make pious noises about access. But the fact is that access in terms of newspapers is restricted to those who can read.
Absolutely.
Access of television is restricted to
those who can buy it.
Even if you have community viewing, the same community viewing that Mr. Nilotpal is talking about is actually the answer. And today, in the social space, this is probably the cheapest medium both to advertise in and to access.
Salman, you're there?
Yeah.
So you heard Dilip Cherian. It is not going to be a free space for too long if it is at this point of time. So you think that the political parties will now start thinking of, setting aside some of its funds, which for advertising or for reaching out to the people, to the social media. And is the Congress party aware of all these realities? Is the Congress party having a separate cell to deal with the social media? And since you are in the government, how is the government coping with all these things?
Yeah, okay. Good question. I'm not still on board about big money being used for campaigns. Of course, it will happen. It will come. Anything that you convert into a popular object, you can make money out of it. I'm talking about social media now and here. Social media now and here is not campaign-based. It is individual-based. Okay. Parties can have any amount of space they want to access. What will happen in the future, we will talk about in the future. We're talking about today. Secondly, do we have a cell? Well, as I said to you, we are evolving a strategy. We're trying to put together things because this is something of a realization that this is not something that can wait indefinitely. As far as government is concerned, it's tricky because the manner in which the government functions is completely different from the way social media functions. And therefore, I think the government will have to work much harder, see what other governments that are ahead of us in this, the US government, UK government, etc., what they are doing and how we can, in our cultural, in our administrative culture, we can bring this in. Today, it's a problem. It is a big problem for government to be able to use the social media very effectively and extensively. But as I said, this is something that's inevitable, and we just have to find a way of dealing with it.
Okay, Salman, thank you very much. Thanks for being there, for coming on the program. Meenakshi Lekhi, just last words to you. The BJP as a political party will continue to use the social media as a tool, and do you think it will be able to do better than what it has been doing? And there's a lot of one complaint about people who are attached to the BJP and who are on the social media is that they are very aggressive. Do you believe in that?
I don't think one has to believe that after seeing what has happened in Mumbai in the riots when the police women are beaten up by some of the rioters, and Congress Home Minister was talking to those rioters. What have we seen in Odisha when police cops are beaten by Congress workers? So aggression of the physical sort is very evident, and we have seen. I'm not going into other political histories of this country.
Meenakshi, sorry, we are running completely out of time.
The information needs to go to people. Information needs to go to people, and social media, which is uncontrolled, is a better medium.
Okay, thank you. Sheila, last words to you. We're completely run out of time. So you think the political parties now will be more, we heard what Salman is saying. He says that for the government it's a very, very difficult thing to do.
Of course. It is already, we are ready as a platform is now getting a lot of advertisements from all parties also during election time. That is one sign. But more than that, I can tell you that because this is the fast medium, it is very democratic medium. It is not true that only literate can access to it. Anybody with mobile phone can have an access to social media. So I don't think it is a medium of future. Everybody knows that.
Okay. On that note, it's a medium of future. Social media has come to stay, and all political parties, interestingly, has taken note of it and have started developing strategies for it. And as Dilip was pointing out, it's going to be a media where a huge lot of money is going to be involved. Thanks to all my guests, Salman Khurshid, Meenakshi Lekhi, Nilotpal Basu, Sheila Bhatt, and Dilip Cherian. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue on The Big Picture, same time tomorrow.